What's up, my brothers? So in this video I want to cover two more red flags which didn't actually make my book. If you've read my book, you're familiar with the 20 red flags, which are really the most common, most frequently occurring mistakes or concessions that guys make when inviting the wrong kind of woman into their life. But there's two more that I want to cover in this video that I didn't put in the book. It comes up not as often, if I'm being honest, but if I were to rewrite that red flag chapter and add, let's say, 10 more, these two would be number 21 and 22, so close to of making the list. Anyway, without further ado, let me just drop them on you. This has come up a number of times in the last few months with guys during consults, but quite often they'll have conversations with women and they're really struggling with them. They have all kinds of issues in their relationships. They're trying to fix it, as guys like to try to do. You know, we love trying to fix everything because we think, you know, that's what we should be doing as men. There are times where you want to end it, though, which, you know, we can talk about in another video. But these two red flags are definitely connected. Number one, it is when she speaks poorly of her exes on a consistent basis. And the more frequently she's talking poorly about exes and multiple exes, like let's say she talks poorly of one but all the time, or she talks poorly of all of them all the time, the more frequently it occurs, the bigger and brighter the red flag should be in your mind. You should be attentive to that anyway. So there's that part. The second component of that is, who was the leavor and the leavee? We know, statistically speaking, through family law statistics with petitions for divorce, women file divorce something like 80% of the time, whereas men only file for divorce, or the initiators, a very small percentage of the time. So women are leaving marriages for the most part. It's not, generally speaking, guys, it's women that are like, I'm done, I'm out. So you got to ask yourself this question: is, if she's been dumped multiple times by multiple men, different men, what is the common denominator in that equation? It's her, right? At the end of the day, she's the common denominator. It's different guys on the top of the fraction. She's the common denominator, and she's constantly getting dumped by different dudes on a more frequent basis. These are questions that you kind of want to get some clarity on, especially if you're struggling in the relationship. There's a lot of conflict and acrimony and fighting over things which may be trivial or non-trivial. It's a good indicator that there's problems coming at you later on down the road, which could increase in significance, severity, and maybe even financially, you know, be of significant consequence to your pocketbook if you make the wrong choice, if you invite the wrong chick into your life. So with that being said, make it a part of your vetting process. I mean, let's just put it this way. I mentioned in my book, in the 20 red flag chapter, and by the way, you don't need to get the book to get that chapter. If you get on my email list, which is also pinned below, it's entrepreneursandcars.com/red-flags. Get on my email list. You can download the chapter on the red flags and just see them for yourself. If you want the whole book, get that. It's worth its weight in gold. As I mentioned in the book, when you're having the conversation about, hey, you know, talk to me about your relationship with your parents growing up, which will help you identify issues with daddy issues, maybe even mommy issues, you know, conflicts with mom in the family sort of thing. But if she's got a bad relationship with her parents, she'll start talking about that when you have conversations around, hey, you know, tell me about your youth. What were your parents like growing up? What was your relationship like with your pops and your mom, sort of thing? And those are sort of dialogues that you can open up to get some clarity on the daddy issues component. Similarly, hey, tell me a little bit about your past relationships. She may volunteer this. Now, I'll tell you right now, if she volunteers this on a first date and starts like just shitting on her exes or her last boyfriend about all kinds of stuff, he was a cheater, he was abusive, he da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, it's like, okay, that's her side of the story. That's interesting. Now, does she talk about it with other exes? All right, so what was the guy like before you dated, you know, sort of thing. Tell me about the other guys you dated a little bit more. And you just kind of like, you know, sit back and just relax, just listen and see what she's got to say. Because, you know, you start talking to them and asking questions. Women like to talk. She should sing like a canary and tell you what you need to know if you just shut up and listen and don't interrupt her. So, you know, ask her those questions. Tell me about your ex. What was that like? Now, she could go way overboard with that, guys. And this is kind of like a little bit of treacherous, waters, which is why I didn't really want to include this in my chapter on red flags. But she could go and offer information that you don't need to hear, or maybe you don't even want to hear, early on in a relationship. So you kind of open up, a can of worms when you start having these conversations. So be aware of that. And ladies should be aware of, TMI, divulging too much information, or information that might be detrimental to what you're building there, if you're building anything anyway, on a long-term basis, depending on what your dating strategy is. But yeah, just ask the question. What were your ex like? If they offer the information, they start shitting on them. Oh, okay, so what was the last guy like? Was he also a cheater? Was he also abusive? It's like, man ain't shit sort of thing. And if you start hearing a lot of that, that's a pretty good indicator that you're likely going to run into a lot of that as well. Because if she's talking bad about her exes all the time, guess what, buddy? You're next. She's going to talk bad about you at some point, and you're probably, again, because she's the common denominator here in the equation, you're going to be the top of that equation. And a few months down the road, or maybe several years or a decade down the road, you're going to be that guy that she's going to shit on to the next dude, and you ain't going to be nothing either, right? She's going to talk about all the bad stuff or manufacture it. Again, there's her side of the story, there's your side of the story, and the truth lies somewhere in the middle. But all you're getting is her side of the story. But if there's I like to tell guys, if it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. Meaning, if she's constantly complaining and pointing and sputtering at her exes, more than one, over multiple reasons, chances are she played a big part in that, and she's not willing to take ownership, which is really what it boils down to. It's a lot of pointing and sputtering at ex-boyfriends or a ex-boyfriend. And then one of the follow-up questions that I'd like to throw at them, which I invite you to do the same, is, okay, and what part of that equation did you play a role in, the failure of that relationship? Something along that lines, like, what could have you done better? Is there, what did you learn from that sort of thing? Is there something that you stopped doing that you did in that last relationship that contributed to its failure? Ask some questions like that, because that'll give you an indication of ownership. And that's one of the positive traits of good women. I have to talk about red flags. I should probably spend more time talking about green flags, but that's one of the positive attributes of a better woman that you might want to consider inviting into your life on a longer term basis, is she takes ownership. Meaning, I screwed up, made some bad choices, invited the wrong dude in my life, tolerated stuff that I shouldn't have tolerated, but here's what I learned, So be open to those sorts of things. Anyway, I could write a big book. My next book could be the big book of red flags if I really had to, but I don't like to spend too much time on that negative stuff. Focusing on you guys. I want to give you guys the best tools possible on the most important stuff so that you're not making mistakes and inviting train wrecks into your life. Smash the like button. Chuck me a comment below. Let me know what you think. Am I right? Am I wrong? Is there a red flag that I should cover that I haven't yet? And if there's somebody that needs to see this, that might be in a predicament that this might help them out in, show them the video. I'm sure it's going to help out somebody. Also, check the top pinned comments. That's where all my main resources are. You want to grab my book, join my men's community, book me for coaching, all that stuff is there. We'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.